It looks so good in here. It looks so good in here. Okay, so last time that I saw this room and you saw this room, it was demoed down to the studs, and now clearly we got walls. So over the past few days, the contractor's crew has been in here. They clearly have been drywalling away, and they added cement boards to the shower, and they waterproofed everything, which is great because the last bathroom had some issues with some leaking, and I don't want any issues with leaking in my new bathroom. So now that this is done, it's time to move on to the floors. And to be honest with you guys, I was not gonna do a video focusing on floor installation. However, after the demo video, which if you missed it is on my channel, I will link it below this video for you to check out. I had a couple questions about the tiling process and kind of what went wrong in the last bathroom and how I'm going to do the tiles in this bathroom. So let's just do a video, right? Now here's the thing, I've done a ton of research on what kind of tile prep is gonna work the best for this particular space. So if you're interested in tiling your own bathroom, you may wanna do some research on your type of like subfloor and materials you're using and all of that good stuff, because the way that I'm doing my floors may not necessarily work best for yours. So definitely put in that time, you will not be sorry. So now that I'm looking around this bathroom, I'm a little overwhelmed because there's a lot to do. So I'm gonna start by taking some measurements of the space and making some spreadsheets and some project planning sheets because I'm very visual and I work better that way. And then I'm gonna head on out, grab the materials I need for this project and get to work. So there is a lot to do. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. Let's get started. All right, so in the last video on my channel, Dad and I demoed my bathroom, and in this video, we're gonna be focusing on tiling the bathroom floor in the only way we know how to, by being a bunch of weirdos and having some fun along the way.
Hi guys, I missed the toilet seat.
I gotta paint a toilet seat on there for your face to go into. So if you missed the demo video, you can check that out on my channel. I've linked it below this video, but in the meantime, Dad and I move forward on the flooring by installing a new plywood subfloor over the existing plank subfloor to prep the space for a clean and level canvas for the new tile. Hi, I'm struggling, as per usual. So as you can see, Dad and I installed this plywood subfloor over the subfloor. It's technically still a subfloor if you're putting another floor over it, right? Mid-floor, sandwich floor, it's like the deli meat of flooring, because there's like, you know, like bread is the subfloor, and then there's like the deli meat, and then this is gonna be like, you know, maybe like the lettuce, and then the tile on top of that is like more bread. I don't know. We're just gonna call this the deli meat of the subfloor. Yeah, like we're super technical here and like, you know, really professional. Just like the deli meat of the subfloor. Okay, that went off the rails a little bit. All right, so we installed this plywood subfloor. A couple reasons. One is because before, I'm sure you noticed, underneath this floor was like planks of flooring, and that is what is directly attached to the floor joists underneath, which are also like the ceiling joists of the basement underneath. So part of the problem with that floor in particular is that because it's a bunch of different planks that are just attached to the joists, they are like a little flexy when you walk on them. So I really wanted like a solid surface on top of that to then put my tiles on top of. Now, part of the reason why the last bathroom, the tile system on the floor was kind of failing, if you don't know what I'm talking about, check out my demo video. You'll see like the tiles in the last video kind of like popped right up with a screwdriver, which is not what is supposed to happen to tiles. Partially, it was kind of because the cement board that they used under those tiles was super, super thin. So there still was like a lot of flex when you walked on the floor. There was like a whole other subset of issues with how they installed those tiles, which I'll talk about a little later when I'm installing my own tiles, which were why those tiles failed, but like, anyway. So not only did we install this for stability, we also installed this to make sure that everything is level. As you can see, I took a level and kind of checked to make sure everything is good, and we are good. So now I have a solid level surface to install this fun waffle looking product. So this is a system for tiles, and it was highly recommended to me by many local tile installers and professionals. It's also a system I've seen a lot of my home improvement content creators using in their bathrooms and their kitchens. And so I mentioned this earlier, but I did a ton of research on this product and what was perfect for this project. This is what I found. So it's not the most cost-effective system, but what it will do is give me peace of mind down the line that my tiles will not fail on me and that I, won't have any sort of like water damage, which the other bathroom did have some water damage. So yeah, I I researched this so heavy. I like inhaled all of the information that I could. I spoke to professionals. I watched videos, I like read manuals, and it all boils down to the Schluter system is the system for me. So that being said, this product may not be what you need for your bathroom. You know, a lot of it depends on like the type of subfloor you have or what kind of tiles you want to put down or like what room you're doing tiles in. But for me, for this project, after my research, this is what I settled on, and so this is where we're going. So I am gonna get started on installing this like membrane on the subfloor. I can't stop thinking about calling it the deli meat floor. Just imagine like a bunch of deli meats and sandwiches all over the floor around me. Anyway, clearly I'm very food motivated. But okay, I have a ton to do. I'm gonna get started on installing this. My goal is to have this entire system installed by the end of the day so that after my full-time job tomorrow, I can get on in here and start the tile work in this main portion of the bathroom. And then I'm gonna be focusing on the shower at a whole other point. So, all right, I think that was a lot of information, but I think I'm ready. I think I'm ready. I think I'm ready. If I say it enough times, does it mean that I'm ready? Yeah, right, hopefully. It's like some positive self-talk. All right, I mean, what's to lose? Let's do it. We got this, Sam. Let's go, we got this. So yeah, you get the gist, I think, minus all of the weird food references. I clearly was really hungry recording that. But anyway, I did a ton of research on this product. I will actually link a whole bunch of resources to this entire system below this video so you can check them out and see if this is something that may be great for your project as well. Now, in terms of installing this actual product to my bathroom floor, I did have to use a very specific type of thin set for this product, and I applied that thin set directly to the plywood and then applied the membrane on top of it. So, what a day to do tile work. All of the water in my house is shut off right now because I completely forgot that while I'm doing work in the bathroom, my dad is replacing a radiator, and then there's like plumbing work that's gonna be happening in the kitchen soon. So what a day to have the water off. Thank goodness my next door neighbor is washing his car today because I just stole water from his hose. So thanks, John. I swear that all of my projects end up being way more complicated than they need to be. Like, these are things I could easily edit out, but there's no fun in that. I like sharing the process and how annoying it can be sometimes. But anyway, back on track. So after I stole some water from my neighbor with his permission, obviously, I then used that water to mix up that thin set to apply the membrane to the floor. I also needed the water because as part of the instructions for installing this, if you're using a plywood subfloor, you do need to make the plywood subfloor slightly damp before applying the thin set, and this helps to kind of spread it out a lot more evenly. I think I'm explaining this correctly. Again, I will link to all of those resources below this video so you can find out more from like actual pros about how to install this stuff. But yeah, I applied the water and then I applied this thin set, and I made sure to spread everything out super evenly before attaching the membrane and pushing it down into the thin set, making sure that I had full and even coverage along the entire piece, which I checked by periodically pulling up a corner or two to make sure that there was enough coverage on the backside. That's messy, huh? Best part of DIY projects, to get messy. That's a lie, finishing them is the best part of DIY projects, but anyway, on to the next step. Ugh. That was like the most fun cake I've ever frosted. So because I'm working in a bathroom, I wanted to take all of the necessary over-the-top steps to make sure that there are no leaking problems in this bathroom over time like there were in the last one. So to do this, I applied a specialized waterproofing band to the seams where all of those sheets of membrane sheets would meet. Why is that so hard to say? You get what I'm trying to say here. But yeah, I will link to all of the products that I use to do this below this video. As per usual, you will find a full breakdown of this on my website. And yes, when I did get to the shower, I did have to use one more special product to make sure that the waterproofing was super tight and super intact, so I will link to that as well. This is giving me drywalling vibes. I'm just like obsessing. Okay, put it down, put it down. I'll just like scrape whatever is sticking up, but all right. Bathtub sealed. I'm gonna repeat this process on all the walls in this bathroom. The problem, I don't have enough to do that today. So I'm gonna finish what I can, go to the store, pick up more, and then tomorrow after work, I'm gonna come back and I'm going to finish what I didn't finish today, but also start tiling. Yeah. All right, so next time you and I are back in this bathroom, we're tiling. See you then. So I've been looking for a really specific type of tile for this bathroom. I want these like black or charcoal slate looking tiles without them being slate, because slate in the shower, I've done my research, I'm not sure that it's a great fit for us. So I've been looking for something like local pickup, because again, been trying to find things locally so I don't have to wait for things to be shipped, because we have to get this bathroom done so we can move in. So I'm literally in my truck about to drive 47 minutes away to a store to go just peek at tile in hopes that it's the right one. So wish me luck. I'll catch up with you guys soon. Yes, this is it. It's the slate look, but it's porcelain. Found our tiles. And just like that, just as I promised, we are back in action the very next day. I was able to get the rest of those waterproofing bands installed around the perimeter of the entire bathroom. And I was also able to find the tiles that I wanted, which was super epic, and begin to run a dry fit on the floor. I really was feeling determined, and I just wanted to make sure that all these tiles were going to fit perfectly. So that's what I did. And two tools that made this job a lot easier, and I'll talk more about these later, were my angle grinder and a tile saw. And just kind of having these set up on my back deck made the world of a difference for this project. So I'm currently laying out all of the tiles in the bathroom on like a dry fit to make sure that things are spaced the way I need them to be and they look the way I want them to look. But one thing I want to note is I'm using 4 different boxes of tiles, and each box has like slightly different variations. So I'm kind of mixing and matching the boxes. So I'll grab like one tile from this box, one from this one next, go to this one, and just so I'm making sure that the variation, if there is any, which is very, very slight, you can't even see it on camera, but just making sure that the variation, if it is there, is completely random. So I'm going to continue doing that and dry fitting some pieces. I'm going to have to cut some smaller pieces at some point, but for now, let's roll with these big pieces and see what it looks like. Just a little side note and a fun fact, tiling was one of the first things that my dad taught me how to do when I used to work with him on job sites as a teenager. So kind of getting back to my roots here and playing around with my tile saw and playing around with layouts and playing around with all this fun stuff was actually really enjoyable to me. It was definitely hard on my hands, and my hands were hurting for a couple days after, but in terms of the tiling process itself, I really had a lot of fun. Oh, I still have to do all these little ones. I think I'm gonna save that for tomorrow. Cut my finger open and won't stop bleeding. So I'm tired, and mistakes happen when you're tired. So I'm kind of behind on this, but I'll figure it out. So tomorrow's another day. Good job, Sam. So next day after work, I came back and cut those last remaining side pieces to make sure everything fit together. And once everything looked awesome, it was time to attach them permanently. Okay, tiles have been laid out. This is the layout that I'm going with. It looks great. The dry fit isn't the hard part for me. For me, it's always putting things down and making sure everything is super straight. Now, in a really small bathroom like this, with the staggered tiles, it is a little harder. So what I'm gonna have to do is get a little creative here, and I'm gonna have to kind of like start on this side to get my straight lines, but then like work my way back and then work my way forward so I don't tile myself into the bathroom. So I'm gonna get started by basically like taking this row and stacking it on this row to give me some space to work. And then I'm gonna start taking a pen and kind of marking all my lines because everything is perfectly straight right now and using those as reference. I promised in the comment section of my last video, some people were asking, what was wrong with the installation of the tiles in the bathroom that was here before I started renovating. So up here somewhere, there'll be a little screen. And what you'll see is when I'm taking the tiles off of the wall in the shower, they are attached by what looks like big blobs of mortar. So that is not the proper way to put tile on a surface. Instead, you have to use a trowel and trowel the surface in one solid direction, then back butter the tile, which means add mortar to the back of the tile, and then place that on the floor. So on the wall tiles, those like blobular, technical term, compound globs were not the way to install those, which is why I was very easily able to like stick a screwdriver or a hammer under it and they all came off the wall. And on the floors, what they did is they troweled the floor, but they didn't do it in a solid direction. They used a trowel that was a little too big and they did not back butter the tiles. So we are not going to do that in this installation. In fact, my goal is that the next person who ever wants to demo this bathroom down the line has a hard time demoing it because everything's going to be installed really well. So that being said, there's a lot to do and I want to get this floor done tonight so that I can grout it very soon and get this video out and then move on to the next phase of this bathroom renovation project. So let's get started. Tiling in a small space can be super tough to do, but we made it work. So I removed that one row of tiles to have some space to be able to work in. And then once those were removed, I was kind of able to shift a few things around and also mark a really straight line on the floor as my reference point. I also made sure to clean the surface before I started installing anything, just to make sure that everything was super flat and ready to roll. And just like I mentioned earlier, in terms of the process here, I applied a substantial amount of the specialized thin set that I needed to use with this product, used my trowel to make sure all of the trowel lines were going in one direction, back buttered my tiles, and then pressed them firmly into the thin set. I then repeated this process throughout the entire floor for what felt like the rest of eternity. I then let the tiles dry for about 48 hours just to be safe, and after that 48-hour period was up, I then came back and removed all of those spacers from the tiles, and I also made sure to wipe down all of the tiles using a tile cleaner just to get any of the residual thin set off of the tiles. To be honest though, throughout the entire process, I did have a wet sponge with me and was kind of wiping down the tiles as I was installing them, so there wasn't too much to wipe off, but I just wanted everything to look super clean. But my work was not done yet, because after everything was prepped and ready to go, it was time to begin the grouting process for the tiles. Before starting the grouting process, I did want to make sure that all of my compound lines were nice and clean and that there was enough room for the grout to sit in between each tile without any compound peeking through. So to do this, I used a grout saw to quite literally saw away any of the compound that was sticking up too high or sticking to any of the tiles. And then I used my shop vac to vacuum up any of the residue before starting the grout. Grouting itself is actually a pretty fun process. I mixed up my grout using water as well as some gray grout for these tiles. I actually ended up mixing up way too much in this batch, I should have known. But once it was all mixed up, I then used a grout trowel to apply the grout to the joints. In an effort to break down my grouting process just a little bit, I applied the grout in between each one of the tiles, and on kind of like its final pass, I would hold my grout float at a 45-degree angle, and I would work in really small sections so that nothing would dry too quickly. Once I was happy with how much grout was kind of packed in between each of the tiles, I would then use that same float to wipe away some of that extra grout, and then I would go back in with a wet sponge that I would use to wipe away any of the excess. After letting the grout dry for about a day, I did go back in with that tile cleaner to clean away kind of like the grout haze or that hazy cloudiness that the grout can leave behind on the tiles. And once that was all set, these tiles were done. Okay. Phase 2 of this bathroom makeover. I didn't even check to make sure my mic is working. Hold on 1 second. That's also on. Okay, we're good. All right, phase 2 of this bathroom makeover is done. Or is it phase 3? Does demo count as phase one? Asking for a friend. So now that the bathroom floor is done, I'm really happy, but there's still so much to do. And next up is gonna be focusing on the shower area. Actually, as I'm doing this voiceover, my dad is bringing things in for the shower project.
I quit.
He hasn't quit yet, so I mean, there's still so much that needs to be done in this bathroom. That being said, there's definitely a lot to do, but we will have a full bathroom makeover eventually. So please make sure to stay subscribed to my channel and click that notification bell for notifications when I post a new video. We're gonna go get to work. I'm gonna go help Dad carry some things in because I just see him walking back and forth as I'm doing my voiceover and not helping at all. That being said, I'm gonna go help him out because we have a lot more to do. I will see you soon with a new video or a new project or something new on the channel. But until then, friends, happy DIYing. I'm coming, Dad, I'm coming.